I know what some of you will be thinking. I absolutely know what you'll be saying when you see my thumbnail and you say, oh, is this a response to Terminator's video? Well, not really, but it is a semi-response. A semi-response in the sense that I believe that this update is absolutely fantastic. It's more than what this game would have had, and honestly, an update like this could have been easily cancelled within the first go. I think that they've done a fantastic job because updates like these for games such as Total War Pharaoh, which is had 500 players at one point, or even less than that, is now showing 6,000 players. Imagine 6,000 players and even more. Sure, maybe it's dropped down to 4,000, but those are numbers that I approve of. But why am I making this video? And I'll repeat again, it's not necessarily a response to Terminator because Terminator has his own opinion. I watched his video. I think he had good criticisms. I think there were plenty of things that he pointed out that, yeah, sure could have been improved. Where I completely disagree is the idea that these updates are simply just, a patch, that they're not deep enough. I mean, perhaps there's some valid criticism in that. Perhaps there is. Perhaps there could be more in-depth features, but how in-depth would you want to go anyway? How in-depth would you want to really go to really add in more features? For some people, the game is not historically accurate. There's magic places. For some, it's immortal faction leaders. I'm just going to be giving you what I think of the entire game. Alright? And we have to appreciate one thing. I think Terminator is a great YouTuber, so I'm not going to go and, target his stuff. That's not my thing. My thing is to give you a review of this update for what I have been calling for a very long time, since the days of Troy itself. And look, the Bronze Age was never going to satisfy every single Total War fan. Everybody wants Medieval 3 and Empire 2. Even I wanted, but I've given up hope on that until Creative Assembly actually do the damn thing and announce it. If they actually did that, they would be regaining a lot of goodwill. Now this is the first step to getting goodwill back, and I believe this is a great update. Could they have done more? Of course they have. Of course they could have done more. I believe that this update is absolutely fantastic. I will repeat again. Is this update good enough? Heck yes, it's good enough. And shame on those really that I will say it here now. This is the reason I'm saying I've been supporting this game from the very start. I said this game would defy expectations, and they've done it. Creative Assembly Sophia have done some really, really fantastic work. Look, if you like this time period, you're going to love it. If you don't like this time period, you're not going to love the game. If you like the battles, you like it. If you don't like it, you don't like it. I nowadays can't be that bothered to do with stats and details and stuff because right now I just want to enjoy games. It's come to a phase where I just want to enjoy playing rather than being too obsessed about stats, unless if it's really important for me doing my gameplay. I'm learning to have fun in my games rather than keep on complaining back and forth. That's just my opinion. I think we should get started straight to the review of what I think this is going to be. This is going to be my own opinion, no scriptedness, no nothing, because I just want to tell you what I've been playing and what I think is actually good. I will tell you the good and the bad, and I have plenty about the bad, plenty, but I have plenty about the good as well, and that's what most people don't want to acknowledge, and that's what I'm going to say. The good bits is we got Mesopotamia, we got Greece, we got these factions with their unique user interface that makes it so much better than the uniform Pharaoh user interface that Rome 2 had for all the games, which I never understood. And I never understood why Rome 2, for that example, only had the Empire UI divided for Empire divided. They never carried it on to the main game. So that was something that was incredibly, I don't know what they were thinking back then. So specific user interface, so specific factions, I think has made a return. It's not like specific, but it is better than nothing. The map is huge, plenty of cities to, fight and conquer with, plenty of faction leaders to have diplomacy with, plenty of, great things across here already. And I'm speaking straight from the heart here that this is great. There's key concepts, there's so much information overload. Even I can't take that much information overload at once. But if you guys want to say this game is bad, I'm sorry. Read the Wikipedia. If you can't read Wikipedia, then what are you doing? Right? The Wikipedia is actually reminiscent of Rome Total War in many, many ways. The Wikipedia has so much on which faction leaders you can play, which minor faction leaders you can play. If there was one disappointing thing is that it is told from the Egyptian point of view, so you will hear from Pharaoh Meneptah. Yes, that's the guy choking on the grape all the time. The other aspect is you get that point of view. But what you don't get is like Agamemnon's point of view. You don't get different other characters' introductions or faction intros. And that was a disappointment. Even within the main cinematic intro, it's just the Pharaoh, and you don't really have much of, let's say, Syria and Mesopotamia. You don't have their point of view. Like so say you load the game, all the dialogue that would have been written for a faction intro is literally shown on the loading screen, which is great. It adds immersion, but I wish they would have hired some voice actors and they would have given those characters a bit more flair. It's a little minor quirk, it's not anything that's the end of the world, but if you actually play those characters, right, play them on the campaign map, they actually have their own unique dialogue, they express fear, they express sadness, they express all sorts of anguish and emotion and all sorts of things that you would never expect in a game. In fact, if you click on a character, right, it's like the old games. You click on a character medieval 2, that guy's going to complain. If you click a character on, let's say, Pharaoh, that guy's going to complain as well. And the game is absolutely gorgeous. Great campaign map, great graphics, great ambience, and they've got some really fantastic new music as well. I think that's more than enough that you could say in an update. I really would want a mythological mode, but I'll talk about that later in the end. I know it's going to be divided, it's going to divide a lot of people, but there's a reason I keep arguing for a mythos mode. That is, if they do decide to return back to Pharaoh. As of now, this is the last update for Pharaoh Total War, and that really sucks. Because I think a game like this has been CA's No Man's Sky. They really No Man's Sky this game really, really hard. They did some really fantastic work. I mean, you're telling me about this update would have been worth £90. If this had been a game on launch with a huge collector's edition, I would have bought this. I would have said, yeah, fantastic. Would this game have had lots of flaws back then? Of course it would have. I'm not going to argue that Pharaoh was a completely perfect game at launch. I think it was a decent game. It was very well optimized, but this is the game I've been asking for a very long time. Even Pharaoh and Troy didn't impress me that much because I wanted this massive mega update campaign. This is the Bronze Age Total War game that I've been dreaming of since I was a child. This is that update. This is what I've always wanted. And heads off to CA Sophia, they really have not just made this Bronze Age fan happy, they made hundreds and thousands of people that love the Bronze Age more than happy. So yes, this update is good enough for me. And I don't care if the updates, it's super fair. It doesn't matter. This update is more than I can imagine. I'm not a stats guy, I'm not someone that's detailed. But for someone that likes this time period, for someone that can appreciate just how much work and effort went into this, you know one thing? When, I'll say it like this, but just imagine the time where every faction would have had its own cinematic introduction like Rome Total War. Now look, one of the things that I have also been discussing is the Creative Assembly devs at CA Sophia, they really interacted with the community. They really did. They responded to as many queries, complaints, whether it be CA Toto, Milcho, or Maya, or any of the CA Sophia devs. They really read our complaints really hard. Let's look at it. In what type of game like this would you get such quality of life updates, right? I mean, this game could have easily been cancelled after the disastrous launch. Let's not be, too hasty about it. And And Total War Pharaoh was unfortunately caught up in this massive storm, the Thrones of Decay and the whole. And so I believe Total War Pharaoh really balances that narrative with the sandbox, along with all the commandments and legacies that you can pretty much choose. And I also get this criticism that, if other factions can choose different commandments, then how does that make them unique? It almost has the humankind vibe, where civilizations pick and change aspects of their culture according to who or what they want to fit, right? You pick and change according to how they want to adjust within their own world point of view. But here's the thing that I also say here. Cultures were changing all the time. Other cultures were worshipping gods, other cultures were worshipping different gods. In the ancient world, it really didn't matter. People worshipped what god they like. I mean, would you have ever imagined in the Roman period, or well, during the Hellenic period really, to have Zeus and Ammon together, right? So whether they choose legacies, whether they choose different policies or whatever it was, if you're fighting someone and that someone has better weapons than you, then you are obviously going to find a way to beat him. If you want to excel in culture and you find that the other culture is doing better than you, you're going to do something better than that, right? It's competition. This Bronze Age world was an age of competition. This Bronze Age world, during the collapse, was an age of recognition that cultures are losing and therefore they're consolidating. So whatever they're going to do to survive, they will do it. And if that means, picking up other people's different cultures, adapting your warfare, adapting different types of architecture or bases, then you're going to do what you're going to do to survive. You're going to do what you're going to do to keep your culture alive. That's what you're going to do. The lethality mechanic I think is great, but it can speed battles up for me, I believe. And I do think that the battles could be more organized. They sometimes do resemble more of a mess, and I'd rather prefer, let's say, Rome 2 in that sense, with more disciplined formations. Right? But that's a nitpick. I also do think that the real-time cycle is great, but it goes way too fast. If you're playing, let's say, nighttime on a campaign, right, and then the game just suddenly goes straight to morning when you put it on real-time, it just doesn't make sense. So I really would wish that they would fix the actual timing of, let's say, the day-night cycle. Sometimes I just want to play night mode only, or sometimes I just want to play in morning mode only. And I do wish you had the ability to toggle seasonal effects on and off during your campaign map playthrough. And the Agony mod does some really, really fantastic stuff. The Agony mod actually lets your generals hold their banners, so I would really like that an option to be in the game as well. The other aspect is that I really do think that they could add a mythological mode. That is, if they do decide to revisit the game in the future, if they actually add the mythological mode, people will pay top penny for it. They will pay top dollar for it. And the mythological mode will be like a civilization clash royale. We have different cultures and different mythological beasts fighting each other. I think it will be great, but I can see why people would be opposed to it as well. At some point, I will make a video discussing what are the pros, what are the cons of having a mythos mode. And finally, yes, I will admit I have bias. I have bias to what I think is a fantastic free update. If Total War Pharaoh had launched with this at the start, this would have been a far, far more positive reception, and I'm saying that without a doubt. People would have said, alright, maybe I don't like all of Pharaoh, but at least I can appreciate what Creative Assembly Sophia have done here. I made 6 to 8 videos, alright? When everybody else had abandoned this game, when everybody else was not even bothering to make content on this game, I kept on making videos saying add Mesopotamia, add Greece. It's not because of me that they added it. It's because a lot of fans came in, they also asked. Every single piece of communication that happened between the devs happened in that CA Total War Discord between the CA Sophia devs and us, the Total War Pharaoh fans. Alright? It was because of them that put their faith in this community. This community did not abandon Total War Pharaoh. They kept it and they stood to it. And therefore we are here. But also I'm really glad that the Total War community has had a look. They've had a retrospective. The awesome Total War community is actually going back to Total War Pharaoh's Dynasty and saying, wow, this is the game that I wanted. This is the game that I like. I love the new update of the cities. And it is also to you, the awesome Total War community that really, really likes it. And I'm glad. As a lover of the Bronze Age, I'm glad. And people say, oh no, this game is bad, blah, blah, blah. Who cares? You know, at some point we have to come to a point where we say, I enjoy playing the Total War game regardless of whether some person in the fandom thinks it's bad or what. Even I could say many things as well. Even I could go on a negative end as well. But I'm not. Because I believe that there needs to be some positivity, there needs to be something at the end of the day. I want to return back to a point where Total War games were being celebrated and everybody had this central opinion, not just oh, this sucks, that sucks, etc. And I'm saying this from the heart. I'm not trying to target anybody. Why would I? I've got my worth playing this update. I think CA has really No Man's Sky this game really hard. They've done a significant job on this game, and I'm saying this with all the emotion in my heart right now. I'm not saying this scripted. I'm not saying this XYZ. I'm saying that they've done a fantastic update. And the best way you guys can support them, go ahead, buy Total War Pharaohs, and get the Dynasties edition. Just get it. Get the Dynasties edition. You're going to be in for a treat. Some of you may not like it. Some of you might like it. But it's a risk I'm willing to take. I want this game to get more DLC. I want a Rise of Persia campaign. I want the Rise of the Assyrian Empire. I want more DLC for this game. And the only way that you can get DLCs for this game is to ensure that this game has a high player count, by supporting it, by spreading about it, by talking about it on Reddit. Because to the Total War community, you will make this game a success. You, the awesome Total War community, not just on Reddit, not just on Facebook, but everywhere across the world, you will make this game a success. So I leave it according to you now. My work here is done. I'm going to make content about this game even when the rest seem to, oh, it just doesn't get that many views. Who cares if it doesn't get that many views? This game will get the max views because I like it. For me, that is. I will make sure that I will get the best views I can. Right? But for others, this has been an impressive amount of work. But I've also appealed to the multiplayer community. Give this game a chance now that we have so many factions. Give it a chance. So I'm going to stop it here. I'm going to say this is a fantastic update. This is the update that we have all wanted. Finally, alright? Bronze Age Egypt and Rome 1 has their real life cousins, and the Mesopotamian, let's say Chaos Dwarfs, also have their real life cousins as well. And Bronze Age Egypt has finally time traveled and returned to the Total War series. And finally, this is an actual historically accurate battle map of Babylon they can finally besiege. So all I see is it's a great future for modding. There's going to be a mythological mod that's already been made. There's a Roman Legion mod already being made. There's so much great stuff for the future of Total War Pharaoh. If I said the Pharaoh Total was going to defy expectations, I say Pharaoh Total was going to have a longer shelf life than what people might say. You may not believe me, but mark my words. This game is going to be a success in the long term. Nobody expected Rome 2 to be a success in the long term, and look where that turned out to be. So I'm saying this is going to be a fantastic update.